Welcome to our Sew Steady Club Box class today. Now, this class is designed to be part of your Elevate Club class series. So we are going to be working with Kate Quinn, she's here today with us to be able to share her amazing projects along with some other awesome tools that she's got. So she's got all kinds of fun cameras set up for us today to be able to work from. But we're going to be doing Arrow Block Panel B, which we're going to be using the 2.5 inch everything template today. And she's going to be showing you all the everything things you can do with that amazing template. So we're going to go ahead and let Kate take it away and show us how she recommends quilting this amazing panel that you can find in your club box. Now, if you don't have this box, you haven't jumped into our Elevate Club program, not to worry. You do have the opportunity to purchase this template and this panel separate. So we'll be posting a link for that as well. But I'll let you take it away, Kate. Do you want to start with kind of just doing some introductions here?
Yeah, sure. Hi, guys. Oh, I love that we can be together again. It's been a while, so I really enjoy visiting with all of my live friends, my streaming friends. We've built a lot of relationships during our COVID days, and it's not been as intimate as we'd like in the last year or so. I've been traveling a lot. So in fact, after this live, I'm driving to Paducah for AQS Paducah. So I still have a few spaces in some classes, especially my night classes. So if you'd like to join, go ahead and check that out. Stacy mentioned that we're sharing the everything feather. So it's not just everything, it's everything feather. So you get a finial right here that kind of can go right in the center of your feather. And then the feather itself, then you got some gentle curves, and you also get a little straight edge. I'm also going to bring in a bigger straight edge too. If you have one, that's not a requirement, right? Obviously we have that here. And let me make sure I can put it in the camera. The reason that you may want another straight edge is if you want to change your spacing and use some different spacing. So I always like to show some different options. This design shows the lines quite close together, right? Right here. These are only a 1/4 inch apart or so. And maybe that's more dense than you might like. So being able to change that spacing is just something that gives you options to get the results that you want to have. Okay. All right. So Stacy, I think I'm ready to go to the sewing machine.
You're all set.
Oh, I have some eye candy for you. I just put these up for fun because, of course, we just finished our log cabin blocks, and these are from my home and hearth class. So we taught this block at the last session, and I decided to use purple. Let me put some light on this so you can see better. I didn't want to blind you with my light, but I need it for sewing here. So aren't those pretty? And the purple is just kind of a fun, rich color. The previous one I did was brown, but I've got a couple of my students that are signed up for the Zoom class that are working alongside me. And I just wanted to thank Sew Steady for inspiring me to get those log cabins going. Now, I am set up. Here is my Sew Steady table. Right? If you don't have one of those, oh my gosh, you're missing out. They are the best. I love them so much. This is the grid glider, and this one is really terrific. I like that it sticks super smoothly and easily onto our Sew Steady table. So it makes it very, very practical. My fabric can move really well. That's why I grabbed these. I wanted to just show you. These are full blocks. They're kind of heavy. And once your table is polished and you've got your glider on, this is how easily things will move. So I can just blow that and it'll just move it right off. So once I set up my fabric, then I can make sure that everything will move really easily. Now, it doesn't make it lighter. If you have a heavier quilt, you certainly need something like our suspension system to help relieve the weight. But everything here will move nice and smoothly, which I appreciate so much. Okay, let me just show you quick things. I always like to review the basics. So right now, I've lowered my foot. Let's see if we can get some additional light on there. Let me check some of the settings. I usually turn the lights off because of glare, but let's see if we need some lighting. We might need a little bit. All right, we won't make it too bright. How's that for you guys? Is that okay? Looks good on my side, so I'm going to go with it. Let me know if you have trouble seeing. Once we lower our foot, we want to just make sure that it is kissing that fabric, that it is nice and low. And if we need to, we'll adjust the foot so we don't have a big gap between the foot and the fabric. That's a basic essential thing. We always need to set our ruler foot height with every quilt sandwich so that we can make sure it will stitch perfectly and not have shredding or poor stitch quality. So once we've got that set up, this is the Arrow B panel, and I'm going to show you real quickly. I did a little bit of marking here. We're using the corner of this pink block as the anchor for our crosshair square. Now mine's kind of big. I have my small ones packed, but I'll just show you real quick. See if I can lift this up with my knee lift.
And then everybody got the circle crosshair square inside of their box, which could work as for marking as well.
Yeah, actually, Stacey, I'll grab that. We have so many great tools, you guys. One thing that's nice about the circle crosshair is that it's nice and small, right?
Yeah, it's the 6.5 inch. You're right. It'll fit on there perfect.
So I'll just move this and then you can see I've already marked just for convenience. But again, you're just lining up your center line like that. And I'm using the edge of this block here as the straight line and the straight line. And it lines up very well, right? So then just mark all 8 of your lines. Right now, we really need the diagonals, but I tend to overmark just in case I need those later. All right, isn't that cute? Look how cool that is. All right, so we'll put that aside. The way that this block works, I want to just show you real quickly. I marked the center here and here. Because these are pre-printed panels, sometimes they might not be exactly. So what I did is I took 2 rulers like this and I put them together so that I had the same distance here like this and the same distance on the other side. So you can see this is not quite 3. So what I did is I just put the 2 like this and made sure that I had the same amount on each side here. That way this line is right in the middle. And it really worked out well because when I measured everything, it does go right through the diagonal that way. So it made it really nice that my line was right here through the center of that square. Okay. All right. So that's just a little tip if you're struggling with that. The way that this particular block goes, it's going to start from these markings that are the center mark of this pink square. That's why it was really important to find that center point so that I can make sure that my 2 squares from this side and this side will touch right in the middle. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First, I'm going to center my needle, pick up my bobbin thread. Sometimes if your thread is long like this, you can just sweep it under there and pick up that bobbin. I think mine's a little short, so I'm going to have to do a little finagling here. If you take 2 stitches, I'll show you real quick. Sometimes it'll make a little knot and it'll let you pick up that bobbin thread right there. So I just needle down and up twice if it's short, especially if I can see that the thread is there, but it won't necessarily pick it up. All right, so here we go over here. And you guys, I have to apologize. I realized that I do not have my spacing gauge, and I'm so sad about that. I packed it up, and now I don't have one. So I'm going to be eyeballing today. I hope you'll forgive me.
Well, there's markings. That's a chance to show the markings on the ruler.
Sure, but I mean, when we're trying to come over here, I'm going to be So right here, when I'm doing this first line, I think I will use my longer one just because I want more room.
Hey, Kate, is there any chance we can try to make the camera a little bit more in focus? I don't know if that's possible, but it's been kind of blurry and now it's getting real blurry.
Okay, let's see if I can check my setup real quick. Is that any better? No.
It is. I
Is it?
can actually see markings on the template now.
It's still blurry though, Stace. Look at it.
It is, I know.
Let me try one thing. Let me see if there's something on the lens real quick. Sorry guys, I thought it looked fine earlier, but let's get this sorted out before we get going, huh?
That's getting better, getting better.
I still think it's too close. Oh, Stacy, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why.
I know.
Let's see. The lighting will change that. I can change that real quick and see if I can
knock it into focus.
I know. I don't know why it's being so ordinary. All right. Does that look? How's that? Is that better?
It's a little bit better. I don't know. It might even work to come out and come back in.
Okay, I'll try that.
Sometimes that helps. It's just that camera. Yeah. Sorry, everyone. Thanks for your patience, but I definitely think we want you to be able to see this very clearly.
Yes, a good view is so important.
Mm-hmm. You've got such a great setup there. There she is. Oh my gosh, it is so clear now.
Yeah, that is so odd, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for that great advice, madam.
Voila.
Okay.
Now, if they don't have a straight ruler like this, I definitely think it's going to be important to show them how they can use that amazing ruler to do all of these things.
So right here, this is a reference line. So if we use this edge right there, that is going to space the lines at 1/4 inch. And if we use the reference line that's on here, that's going to give us a 1/2 of an inch, right? If we line up this.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll give us a little bit more space. For the first line, all we're doing is we're going dot to dot. So here, You're going to have to kind of help me here because I have to guess with my 1/4 inch, but let's do it.
And you know, the best way to, yep.
What was the comment?
Oh, I was just going to say the best way to guess is just to slow down when you get close and make sure you're going to be on target.
Exactly. Fortunately, I've sewn these enough that I probably can fake it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm right at the dot. So we've marked that. And then the way that the block goes, once you go from those corners, you're going to go over to this next corner over here. So we just line
and it
that
just,
up.
and you know what? It just got blurry again, Kate. Isn't that strange?
I don't know. What's the problem?
Yeah. It really cleaned it up when you left and you came back in, but it's almost like when you got really super close, it got, you know, kind of out of whack again.
So I didn't change the focus.
It's just being difficult.
It's being super difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I can check that setup. Is that any better? No, it's terrible.
It's about the same.
Here?
Mm-hmm. It was like it came in crystal and then you had some things that were really close to the camera and it's almost like it kind of pushed it, you know, it kind of changed the focus because you got close to the camera or something. I don't know.
How's that looking okay right now?
Yeah, we can see that. That's okay.
So this is where we're aiming for. So there's my 1/4 inch right there. And just as Stacy mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and get closer, and then I'll adjust just slightly just to make sure that it can have a nice pretty connection. I want to be just a little further down. That'll help me gauge that 1/4 inch right there. So can you just see that that spacing gauge is super valuable? You totally want that. I don't like to be without it, to be honest. Here, let's do this one on this side. I'm going to show you something real quick too. Notice that I have my stable tape grips are on both sides. And the reason that we need that is we don't have a left and right feather. So if we're going to do one side or the other, then we're going to have to flip that template over, which is really a nice feature to have that all on one. Here, let me show you my setup here. Right? I'm on the foot. Here's my 1/4 inch. And I'm going to go ahead and line it up. I love that it is moving so smoothly right now. So let me check and make sure I'm right at my spot. Okay, now coming up right on this last one. This is where I really love my spacing gauge, in fact, because then you really close very precisely, right to your start point, you're going to close. Hopefully we'll do as good of a job with this one as we did with the other ones. Now, this block has a lot of lines that you're putting in to create the density for it. And there's 2 ways that we can do that. We could actually stitch kind of down this center line right there until we have enough space for the next line. Remember that we said we're using this 1/2 inch line, so we'd be lining that line up like that. So we would want to be a 1/4 inch away from that. Another way that we could do it is we could actually just do our tie-offs right here. I love this jump stitch method. And then just pick up your needle, release your presser foot, and just scoot in. Line this up, okay? And we're going to start right on the same diagonal that we started on before. So line up my needle, okay? And then just line this up. And right now, this is the bisection right here, so we don't really need any marking. This is my crosshair line right here. So we're sewing to this crosshair line, and we don't need any extra references because we already have them built in once we move from crosshair lines. So right there, I'm on the crosshair line. Check my position. Looks like I need maybe one more stitch. So I'll go ahead and put that in. I'm also looking right here. So if I have my spacing gauge, I could also put that on there.
How's the video coming, Tucker? Oh, sorry about that.
So I'm going to line this up right here on the reference line. Okay, as we sew forward, you'll be able to see the alignment of the loom a little bit better. And remember again that we're stopping then on all those diagonals. So as we move towards the back, I'm just trying to keep alert for that. That line, it's right here, but it's a little harder to see back behind me. So I'm just going to slow down a little bit so I don't overshoot it. So right there, and then bring this along the back and line it up. And here we go. Moving nice and smoothly, listening to your machine, moving evenly. Okay, so looks like I need one more. Otherwise it'll be a little too far away. So it'll look, the line won't look nice and even. Okay, you can see now, right here it's lined up perfectly, right on the existing stitch line. And we'll come into close right here. It looks pretty close to that 1/4, so I'm not worried about the spacing. So same thing, right here, I'm going to take those tacking stitches and secure this line of stitching. I'm using a polyester thread. So with the polyester thread, I usually want about 5 or 6 stitches in order to make sure that they're secure and they're not going to pull out. And I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to do the jump stitch method and just move into the next line. So needle up and foot up. You need both of those to release the pressure on the thread, and then give yourself a little slack here and just line this up. That helps you kind of get this out of the way so you can get a nice alignment. And then we'll put our foot back down right on the diagonal and line up the needle. Okay, then when I start, I'll just start with a little slow stitching right here just to make sure I get a little anchoring right here. I want to just like keep on sewing and go crazy. Shoo! But you've got to look for your diagonal. Make sure you're keeping track of that. And I just check the spacing. If I need maybe one more stitch just to keep it nice and even, I'll just do one more. There we go. Oh, it lines up so beautifully. Perfect. Okay. So you can see this has got either your 1/4 inch spacing on here or your 1/2 inch spacing. So it's very easy. One of the things I like about the size of it is if I'm working in a small space, this is a really compact ruler. So I like having a ruler that isn't sticking out, poking me a little too big. This is just big enough for my hand to control. And if I don't need something extra big, then I prefer it to be like this. I'm just going to cut this top thread here just to clean that up. I think it got sewn over, so I'm just going to snip that before it gets hidden in there. All right, and then let's go ahead and do this next one. Now you can put as many of these lines in as you want to, right? I mean, obviously I could continue filling this up. The actual block shape is pretty dense. You can see there's quite a few lines in there, and you get to choose that. I want to note that on here as well, if you look, they also can travel by stitching up the line. So that's a little different than what I did. What that would mean is from where we are right now, if I wanted to travel to the next line, I would sew up this line, sew around, and then you would fill these in potentially later on to fill in all the lines so that they all look the same. The way mine is going to be right now, each of these squares will be distinctive and they'll be separate, but that's not exactly continuous. So there's options for you to do both of those. So I'll go ahead and just jump one more over. Let me make sure I did my little tie off here. We'll do one more quickly, and then that'll just show you some of the spacing that you can get. So mine's a little bit wider, I think, than the sample on the picture. They did more lines and they used that 1/4 inch spacing. All right, here we go. A few stitches slowly and small to anchor that. So here I'm going to the crosshair line marking. I can physically see it. And then I'll just check this next line and line it up. So I'm having to be a little bit more careful because I'm right to the edge there of the crosshair line. So if you wanted some lines even smaller than that, then I would recommend that you cross your lines all the way. But I think I'm done. I don't think I want to add any more than that. Okay, so we'll tie this off and I'll go ahead and show you how we cut those lines. So here, I've lifted up my needle and my foot. I'm going to pull this out and kind of hold on to this top thread here. That lengthened the bobbin thread underneath. And I'm going to line everything up and put my needle right back down where I left off. So I needle down and up. And when I pull away, right there is my bobbin thread. So I don't have to go fishing around for it. I'll just tighten up that thread right there and then I can snip it off.
All right, before we do the next stitching, I think we should try to make it a little bit less blurry again.
Okay. Stacey, I'm so sorry. I don't know why it's misbehaving. I don't usually have problems with it.
I know. I just think maybe going out and coming back in, but not putting anything next to the camera will be really great. Because I think once it got there, it was good. And then I think that you put a bunch of like your fingers really close to the camera, and I think it kind of went off again. See, look how clear that is, everyone. Now we can see what she just did.
All right, so let me just pick it up so you can see it.
Oh yeah.
Just very clean, very clean. It's just nice and smooth. The spacing is nice and even with that tool. Does a really great job. Did I lose focus again? Stacey, that is so maddening. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, it's like it's when there's movement, it definitely is delayed.
Okay.
Oh, you coming back in?
Yeah, I don't know how to make it, stay in the wide angle camera. It's trying to do some like really close.
Okay.
All right, I'll try to keep my hands out of it. It's a bit of a challenge.
Well, you're gonna need to keep your hands on it, but
No, I know. It's so annoying. I don't know why it's so difficult. Okay, well, now that we've shown you the box, I want to show you some alternate options. So I'm going to use the same space over on this side, and I'm going to show you one of the options that's in there where you get a little bit of a crosshatch. And I actually love this because I think this one will sew out fast, but you're going to get more density right here in the bottom. Okay, there's a lot more stitching there. Let me make sure that I've got my crosshair mark. Where is my... All right, let's line this up and make our markings. Oh, that is so great. It's so small and easy to use. I love it. All right, and then put it on our 45, just like that. You can see the number right here. This is the 45. So we'll put the white lines, and that's going to give us our diagonal bisections right there. All right. And I think I will extend these lines just a little bit. So I don't want to have any areas where they're not long enough for me to do my little switch. Okay. Maybe this one. Okay. So we're going to start at the same place right here. And basically the way I'm going to do this is I'll do 2 corners that'll look like this, and I'll do 2 corners that'll have the alternate view. That way we get to play with some more thoughts, more ideas. Still starting in the corner here, lining up my needle. There's my bobbin thread. Just getting my needle aligned right where I want to. So we're doing the same thing. We're going to come here and we're going to go around the square just like we did before the first time. Okay, so I'm 1/4 inch away right there. Here we go. Okay. So you can see I'm not necessarily having to turn my sandwich or anything. I just lined it up. And here, I'll just slide this up just a little bit. I'm keeping the same 1/4 inch right here, just so I have a little bit more room for my thumb. Okay. Now, it's getting harder for you to see, so I'll turn it around. So we've just done these 2 lines, and then we'll just align to the center right here. So those center marks I think were really important. I feel like they're going to help me have a really good result. For that pink square, the center of the pink square. Okay, and then we'll do our last line. All right, I'm going to hold this in place to get my square closed. Before I stop stitching, I'm actually going to back up right now, right on the same line before I move my ruler. I'm looking for this 1/4 inch right here. So I stitched all the way to the reference line, and then I moved back on the same line without shifting the ruler. That helps me stitch right along the same line without losing my place right there. So there's a little tiny bit of extra stitching right here at the toe. Then line this up, and I'm gonna sew just like we did before. I'm right on the reference line, and I'm gonna sew all the way until I touch the other line of stitching on the other side. So just slide that down a little bit so you can get all the way in. And then just like I did before, I'm going to sew backwards just a little bit. So I want to make sure I touch, make sure there's no gap right there. And now back up. Back up that 1/4 inch, just enough so I can put my ruler this way. Okay, so it looks like maybe I went a stitch too far. I'll hold the ruler in place and I'll just stitch forward until I'm touching. We've done this complete line all the way across. If I start stitching this way, there's going to be a gap right here. So before I go this way, I'm going to go backwards and touch and then go forwards. That's going to give me the crosshatch both directions. Okay, and then just scoot that down a little bit. We'll sew all the way to the edge, to the stitch line. So the needle's touching. Then I'm going to back up so that I have that 1/4 inch. Because I need to put the ruler right here. So this is the space that I'm creating right there so the ruler can be here. Okay, so I'm lined up. Make sure you're touching before you start sewing. And then we'll go back and forwards.
I love that. It's kind of giving a new way to be able to do those grid designs.
Yeah, and it's continuous, and we're using the ruler the whole time. So it's not like we have to guess. We're just using the basic math of the 1/4 inch foot. And right now I touched there, so now I need the 1/4 inch on this side. Okay, so here I'm going to sew backwards first, right? I got to close the design on this side backwards to the stitch line and then go forwards. Okay, once I get close, I like to scoot the ruler down. I don't like to be right to the edge. So I'll sew all the way in. Now, once we've closed this part, I'm going to sew back further. We're going to sew a 1/4 inch away from the inner line, right? So right now I'm on the intersection, I'll show you, of this line right there, the inside line, but I want to be a 1/4 inch away from it so I can sew the next line. So just line it up, and you're going to sew a little further inside this time. So let's see if we can do a little close-up view to show the spacing, Stace. We need to get close, really close. So can you guys see that okay, or is that too blurry?
I think we're seeing it okay. It's still pretty blurry though.
All right. Yeah, boy, it's so blurry. How can I get it to behave over here?
Someone recommended that maybe it's the lighting.
This is the same lighting I've used for the last 5 years. I don't know how that would be the challenge, but all right, Let's try one more thing.
Watch Kate get technical here. It is actually not blurry when you're looking at it really small.
Okay.
Someone pointed out that on their phone it was fine.
Oh, on their.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So can you put it up and let's see what it looks like?
Yeah, someone thought that there might be some reflection from the lights. Like this is good now, but it seems like once you start moving, it gets blurry.
All right. Let me try one more thing. We always got to try something, right?
Mm-hmm.
How's that, Stace? Any better?
It's worse.
It was worse.
Mm-hmm.
Dear Lord.
Yeah, someone thought maybe if you gave the camera a closer up view.
Yeah, I tried that. That's this view,
Mm-hmm.
but it still isn't focusing.
No. You know what? It probably just needs a good reboot.
Okay. Okay.
That's how everything is solved, with a good reboot, right? It's just like everything, every computer-based thing these days.
All right, well, let's do a hard reset too.
We're going to do a hard reset, guys. So while Kate does that, I was going to go ahead and share with you, this is the Class B class kit that everyone is getting in their box. This is something that you can get separately if you wanted to go ahead and, you know, have this and you chose not to be part of the Elevate box program. What that is it's a quarterly box that you receive that has practice panels, new templates, fun projects that we're going to be doing all quarter long. So we get it out to you at the beginning of the quarter, and then you get to participate in all of these amazing classes that we have. So this is our Aero class pattern B, and this is a design that originally Donna McCauley created on her Aero blocks. And so this is a practice panel that we included, and it gives you the opportunity to go ahead and kind of follow written instruction, which is, and then this class kit comes with two options. You can purchase it with a template, or you can purchase it with just the panel. So I will go ahead and provide a link to that as well. So if there's folks out there that maybe want to jump in with just the practice panel, or they really love this new template. One of the things that I love about this new template is it comes with the finial. So it has a really neat finial that we've never offered before in our feather designs to finish the top. And so that's something that is kind of a bonus. And I feel like I can see that better now, Kate. Maybe we solved it.
It's a pretty disappointment. I don't know why it's having so many issues. Let me see if I can move my iPad. So, no, that's not going to work either. God bless me, Stacy. I don't know what to do.
Oh, that looks good.
Okay. Yeah, that looks better. So here's the spacing that I'm talking about, right? So we sewed around, and this is the first line that on the inside. We went all the way around and we went to here, and then I stitched backwards to create enough space here for me to put that alignment of the feather on. So right here, line it up right on the same reference line. If there's a gap right here, before you start sewing across, you want to make sure you are touching the ruler. So I'm just going to sew forward. I went a little too far. So here I go. So many buttons. There we go. So close it by going backwards first, then go forward. Go all the way to the end. And then again, this will show we're going to stitch backwards. This is the first line right here, and I need a 1/4 inch beyond that. So now I can rotate this, line it up, and sew backwards first to close the line, and then sew forwards. Okay. Once I'm on the line, just scoot that down and go all the way to the other side. And then again, backwards, just enough to create this gap here so that I can put the ruler on. So you'll see I'm going to come forwards, close that distance, and then go backwards. Slide it down just a little bit. Making sure my ruler's touching. And then give myself a little bit of space, let my fingers out of the way, and we'll just close that last line. Since all the other lines are double stitched, I'm going to go ahead and stitch this one back right to that position. And this is where I can go ahead and do my tie off. So pull that out and hold that. And then I'm just going to line it up right where I left off right there. Okay, there's the bobbin thread. Just pull those up. All those threads, tighten them up. And then just snip them off. Because I did already do that tacking stitch, so they'll be secure. So I like this one as well as the other one. It just has a little different flavor. I'll show you them both side by side so you can get the sense of them. Let's come back out a little bit. It's a little too close. Doesn't that look awesome? So there's the one with the
so good
corners. And then there's the one with the openness, right, where the lines are independent of each other. And then we'd have to go and snip the bobbin threads for this one, right, because we jumped over. But I love how it's going to fill this block so beautifully, and I'm going to have both options showing. That'll be fun. Inside this center space, this is where we're going to put the feather, and I'll do one on this side that'll match the basic one from the design from Block B. And then I'll show another one that uses the other feather that we have in there that looks really cool. Let me put something underneath this so you can see it a little bit darker. I have some like backing cards that will make it easier for you to see the lines. All right. So for the feather, you've got this shape, and right here is a center mark. It literally says center right there. And of course we can use these other lines, but this is the base alignment that we're going to try when we do the first lobe. Okay, so when I do that, I want to start the feather right here. So I'll pick up my bobbin thread. And I think I'll tip it upside down so you can see that alignment closer to you. I'll sew it upside down. Otherwise the feather will be on the other side. So here's the center mark right there. It's a little hard to see, but I'm lining that center line up on the line. Okay, so that means I might have to pull it forwards this way, right? There's only so much room. If I push it down, the center is off. So as I shift it this way, then I can line up the center line. Okay, so you're going to sew the first one. And then let me get my foot control. Here we go. So put the first feather in. Go until you touch the spine. The spine is the line of the block that you just stitched. It's this straight line because the feather sits right on top of that. So once you're touching there, I'm going to come back up to the top of the lobe, right? This is basically where the feather is at the top. And I'm literally just going to turn this, and I would use my spacing gauge right there to get right to the center position right there. Okay, so we want to close it. And then we'll write it in the center right there. Okay, so now I've got my two, and then flip it over so we can do the other side. So there's my center marking right there, should be the same. I'll pull these threads out of the way a little bit. And we'll do the first one. The first feather on this side. So go all the way until you touch the spine. And then come back up to the top position. And when I say the top position, I'm going to just show you real quick. This is where the feather is widest, right? Like as it goes this way, it gets narrower. And as it goes this way, it gets narrower. So right here is what I consider to be the top, and this is where the feather is widest. So we sewed back up to this top position. So then I'm just going to tilt the feather so it gets a little crossover there in the center. We'll sew the bottom until it's touching. And then we'll go all the way around and we'll end back in the center. Okay, now we have this cool finial. If we want to put a finial right in the center, you could just line that up and just put it right over the top of it. So I think that's kind of fun. I want to start right, it's about 1/4 of an inch in here because we want it to be where it starts curving almost right away. So I'm just going to line it up right in the middle like that. And here we go. This is an added bonus, putting this cute little finial on here. All right, and then I'll tie that off. And we'll cut these threads. Lining myself right back up where my needle stopped working. And then there's my bobbin thread right there. Tighten up everything and you can cut all the threads because we're tied off. Okay. Woohoo! Isn't that cute? And then if you had one here, one here, one here, they all go towards the center and they make kind of a cute little inner block of their own, a little fill. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do those on the two opposite sides. And then I thought it might be fun to show you some of the other feathers that we have. We have this really cute little tiny one. He's got some great markings on the bottom that would make it really, really easy to line this up to go in a half circle. You could see right here, because this is a Spinifex, so very, very easy to use. We need to put some stable tape. I have that ready. I want to take a moment just to talk about how important the stable tape is. So we're putting this on the back of the ruler. The back of the ruler is the side where the lines are etched on it, right? Physically, I can feel that with my finger. So I'm just going to try to put my stable tape in a place where it's not going to be covering up any important reference lines or anything like that. So, And I'm going to use the smaller one, and I'm going to put one more piece up there. Stable tape is very valuable because it means that the ruler and the fabric will move together, right? So when I'm using them, they'll work together. They'll make this move as one. Also, these are acrylic safe adhesives. So I had a friend give me some carpet tack. It looks just like this, and it melted my acrylic. So I really encourage you to use the stable tape because it is a safe adhesive. It's very easy to remove and replace if you need it. It lasts a good long time. The other thing I like is if I'm stacking my rulers, then stable tape is like a natural little pillow so they don't get scratched up and lose your markings. Okay, so we're going to use this smaller side. I'm going to make some crosshair markings real quick so that we can use that. So then put it on your 45 to make the next set of markings. Get it all lined up. All right. So we'll anchor our needle right at the center like we've done in the past.
Oh, I like what you did with that feather design.
Yeah, it's fun. I just added the finial because we didn't really have a use for
Yeah.
it.
It almost
So
looks like a butterfly.
Oh, it does. Oh, that's kind of cool for the future, right?
Yeah.
Let's put this on. I'm just going to hook it right in there, and I'm going to do a quick check right here. It's kind of close on this side, but I'm just going to go with it. This would be maybe something you would want to choose one or the other, not both then, because I think that they'll conflict. So here, you're just going to sew up, and you can actually sew either to B or you could sew back to the center. It's your call. Okay, so we'll just sew out. Put our first one in. So right here, if I sew to B, I could rotate this backwards like this. But at the same time, if I just want to sew back to my start point, I can also do that because there's enough room here for me to do that. The reason to go to B is if there wasn't enough room to rotate, then I would just go to the next line right there. So here, there's a little marking right here, it's A, and I can line up the existing feather that I just sewed right on that marking, and that gives me the 1/4 inch right there, so I have enough space to connect this to the next feather. So touch, and come back. And oh darn it, I'm going to sew over. I have a thread, a loose thread there. I'm going to try and pull it. Okay. Then again, rotate, and then you'll see we'll be right on A. So I'm actually right here at the center cross mark. There's a little tick mark right there, and A is lined up right there. So this is going to fit in there just perfectly. And here we go. So I love the Spinifex feathers for this reason because they're really easy to use. They're some of my favorites, and they just look really pretty. So then just rotate again. You're lining that up, and here's my crosshair line right here. So very easy. I see that these are going to be real close to touch, but I'm just going to go with it because I can. There we go. I did a little fudging. Okay, and then here's the last crosshair line, this straight line, and I'm lined up right on A, touching my existing feather. So for here, I don't want to go backwards, right? So what I have to do is I actually have to sew just this part right here. This is an example where it would be better if I was at B. So let's actually go back to B and I'll show you that. So that would be an example why you would want to go to B and not go all the way back to the center because it's not going to help you. So right here, I'm at B. Now I can pivot this to the A position and line it up and line it back here right at the center point. And now I can finish that design without having any big complicated stitching right there. Once you take it off, just go ahead and tie off your stitches. I'm going to tie them off in the existing stitch line right there. And then we'll cut our thread. Just line it up, and you go down and up, and once I pull it away, there's my bobbin thread right there. So just tighten all of those threads up so there's no slack on the back, and then I can just cut it, and I'm done. So you can see it's a little close right there, but just love that. Isn't that pretty? So the Spinifex feathers I think are pretty easy, and this is where I showed you the value of that A and B marking. So let's see if we can show you that a little closer. It's on both sides. You'll see that there's 2 B marks. Can you see that? So here's your A. This is what you'll line up on the previous feather. Once you sew one and you pivot, you'll line it up and it'll be aligned like right there. You'll see that it lines up. Here's B. So if you're at A and you sew back to B, then you can pivot and put your foot at A and then line up whatever your center position was that you started with. And that lets you move to the next one. And you'll see that's available on both. So you have 2 different sizes here with the Spinifex feather. One is the 4-inch and one is the, I can't see it. I'm not sure. I covered it up with my staple tape. But it's right on the package right here, a 3 and 4-inch spinning feather. And then it's got a really cute little curvature on here that you can use for a leaf design as well. So you get the little anchor foot right there, the foot hook, and then you can make that, and then you can flip it over or flip it this way. So again, this would be where you want to have the staple tape on 2 sides, so you could flip the curve over to the other side for alignment. So the stuff that we've shown you today, I'll leave this card up here. We've shown you our spinning feathers, which have the leaf. And then we show you the 2-inch everything feather with the finial. And this also has just a really gentle feather spine right here. The feather spines, we don't want them to be super deep in a curve because they're really difficult to manipulate that way. Because they're a template, they're not freeform. This shape doesn't really change. So when you have a really deep curve, it's hard to manipulate the feather. So you'll see that most of our feather spines are about 1.5 inches deep. They may be longer, but they're not super deep cut. And so you could just sew this and then just move it and sew some more and sew some more, or you can flip it back and forth so you have the in and out curve. So this will be a little node and a dip and a node, and as you stack them, they'll make a nice cute convex and concave curve. So this is your feather spine here, and then here you've got just that 1/2 inch along with your 1/4 inch markings. So quite a bit of added value with just the 2 templates. And then you should get your panel in your box. And then I also wanted to just reinforce that we also used the circular crosshair, which is so cool. So when you line it up, it doesn't have a million lines. You can see that these are at 90-degree angles, but you might just mark one and then move to the 30 and then mark the next set, mark the next set. And that way you'll be able to get all of the additional markings. You're using these to line up your initial. Once you make your first straight line, then you line it up on the white line, and then that would give you the next set of reference lines. So be sure to keep the directions for this. It's multifunctional and it has all the angles in one, but then it does require a little bit of smart use to make sure you're getting your lines the correct way. All right, Stacy, any questions from our audience or anybody out there?
No, I feel like we, covered any of the questions that came in as they did. I think at this point, yeah, I think that there was a question. It said that the circle come in the kit, and the answer is yes. The circle, crosshair, square was part of the kit. So I can answer that question, Kate.
Good, good. So then I just went ahead and I'll pull out just a little bit, and I'm going to hold this straight up just so you could see the designs.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's focusing. So, it just takes a sec. There we go. Yeah, I love it. Look at the butterfly.
And the way that we did it, this is all 1/2 of an inch. But of course, as we showed, you could do whatever spacing works best for you. So the density changes are going to be if you have your lines closer, this will be denser. Especially here, if you have your lines closer, you'll get a lot of density in the crosshatch area. But really just a fun way to fill in your quilting. And it's super clean. This is actually a very clean design without a lot of complicated looks to it. And I just think it looks really great. So thanks for letting me sew it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope everybody got something out of this tutorial. If you have our amazing Elevate Q2 box, you've got this gorgeous panel in there, and Kate's giving you some really fun ideas on what you can do with it. Of course, there's written instruction within that kit as well. So you can kind of follow along as Kate showed along the way today. But we'll look forward to getting this class up on the university for you to be able to kind of get some of those tips out of it and be able to use it in the future. So thank you all so much. Thank you, Kate, for joining us today. And we'll look forward to having some more great education for everybody next week.
Thanks for your patience with the camera. I'm going to work on that and try to figure out. I've never had that happen before, so I don't know if there's an issue with the phone.
I know, that's so strange, but thank you again, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody here on our education that's coming up next week. We've got some great stuff going on. So
take care, you
bye,
guys.
everyone.
Happy quilting.